LA. Straight up.
Go out to LA. The new anthem.
There it
California
is.
Love Part 2.
One time.
To live in LA. West side, west side, west side. To live in Don LA, where everybody try to fatten their pocket. So many hustle for the cash, so it's hard to knock it. Everybody got their own thing.
Living in LA, hustling for the cash, hustling for the money, hustling for anything we can get that will maintain our survival. And God bless you, community family, and welcome to Gang Talk. Because if you listen to this program, you know how serious it is, and you already know why we're here. So we want to thank you and welcome you to this very important community hour where we try not to waste your time and bring you important information we think is worth sharing with you. So God bless you once again for listening. If you do, and if you do, tell a friend it's time to get on this train. This is our train to freedom. It's time to get on board or get left behind. So I want to thank Skipp Townsend for being our faithful co-host for so many years. So many years, Skipp. I can't thank you enough. And I want to thank you for the work that you do. I want to thank you for that great weekend, last weekend, from the basketball game to the banquet. And I want to tell our listeners that this is something Skipp's been doing for a long time. And both my husband and I were blessed to come to their very first second call banquet back in February 22nd, 2009. And that came up on my Facebook memory today. And it was such a sweet memory because Dale and I got a chance to come to that together. And so that was a date night for us to come and support you. So it was a big deal, Skipp. And I just want to thank you for all the things that you've been doing.
Well, I thank you, Sister Herron. As always, I give honor and praise to God. I'm truly grateful to be alive. And I'm grateful that I, at some point, without me even knowing, I just became obedient to God. Mm-hmm. I just started following His direction and stopped trying to follow my own. I think that's why all these things have been happening in a great way, because I let God lead. I stopped trying to lead myself.
Well, you know, the word does say, lean not to your own understanding.
Right.
Let go, let God, let Him direct your path. And that's what you just verified.
Right, because I look at it like I'm probably the best tow truck driver there is in L.A. I'm an auto transporter. I could tow Lamborghinis, Ferraris that low off the ground. I'm good at it, never damage a car, won't get the interior messed up. I'm good at what I do. And I thought that that's what I was supposed to be doing. And
nothing wrong with it. You could train other men to operate a tow, what it takes. Right. The point being is that's not your only skill. It's not your only gift. And
so, but that was where I was going. That's the direction I was headed in.
Skipp.
And God turned me around.
Amen. Say, I got more for you to do than this.
Right. Yeah. So grateful to be here. Grateful to have these wonderful guests. The weekend was wonderful. I do want to give a shout out to CIW, the California Institution for Women, because they showed up and they showed out. Even though they lost the game, they are always so excited to be in LA. They're so excited to support their team. And LAPD, as they always do, they win most of their games.
They're thugs, they're thugs on the court too.
It was perfect with the anti-bullying. We had the bullies out there, you know. So
it was a beautiful effort, and the beauty of it is that you had an agenda. It wasn't just basketball. It was about the anti-bullying, trying to promote that, which is what brought our guest here tonight. But before we get into that, I have to thank the 3 people that came last week, because we had to juggle our schedule so I could come to the game. You know, that's an important weekend for me, too, that dates way back to 2009 and beyond. But we had a very intense conversation, and I have to apologize because in reviewing that show, I could see how angry I was. And it was a combination, as I said to somebody today, when our children are killed, murdered, I don't know anybody that shouldn't be upset about that.
Right.
And from 3-year-old Franklin to the 14-year-old young girl that I haven't even learned her name yet, to Anthony Weber, 16, killed by the sheriffs. It's been troubling. It's been very troubling for our people and our families. And so if somebody thought I was too upset, let me just apologize to you, because it is upsetting to see our children dying at such a young age. It doesn't matter who's killing them, the fact that they are dying. And then when we have this horrific school shooting, 17 casualties, to see the kids actually moving this forward is very hopeful. It's very hopeful. And before I shut up and introduce my guests, the best part is they're showing the adults. They're making us look bad. They really are, because they're on the right path. And where are the grown people saying, yeah? From the White House to the Congress on down to their state representatives, where are the adults saying, yeah? Right. So let me just close that, because that was the essence of the anger and rage from last week. Tonight, we have special guests we invited specifically because our focus this month is on bullying. It's on bullying. So I asked a very special lady that this is her arena. She's what we call our expert, and I want her to introduce herself.
Thank you so much, my sister. First off, I'm honored to sit here in between kings and queens. And so I'm humbled, I'm honored, and I thank God. My name is Candy Lewis, and I'm the Executive Director of the Positive Results Corporation. We're a nonprofit, and we address teen dating violence, sexual assault, and bullying, especially in youth and communities of color. People do not realize that February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. And people say, wait, what? What do you mean teen dating? Violence and abuse affects everyone. And we've coined the term that is a fact that violence and abuse begins in the womb.
In the womb. In
the womb. It begins in the womb. And that's because they say that 1 out of 4 women will be abused at some point in their life. But when we look at communities of color, based on the research that I've done, as well as other organizations, it's breaking down to about 1 out of 2.
Wow.
And so if a person is abused and they become pregnant, the likelihood of that abuse increasing and escalating goes up 60.6%. And I'm talking about they'll be kicked, they'll be pushed downstairs, they'll be raped, they'll be thrown out of cars.
Okay. And I really want to get to all that, because I told you we were going to talk about bullying, and I had some specific questions I wanted to ask you, and you've already jumped into the first one. But let me let our other guest introduce himself and let him tell you a little bit about his background that he wants to share.
Well, my name is Eddie Willis, and I am a born and raised Los Angelino, and I have the honor of knowing the people I'm sitting with because I was introduced to the work that they do, and that is, the saving of the lives of our young people in this city. And I grew up in LA, and I tried not to bully anyone. I was a righteous person as best as I could be. But I remember leaving a ceasefire meeting in 2010, I believe, and Brother Skipp Townsend, he was like, well, thanks for coming again, brother. I said, always, always. And, even though I didn't gangbang, but I always thought, okay, well, just raising my kids ain't good enough. How can I be part of the solution? So in the third meeting, after ceasefire in the parking lot, and Brother Skipp reminded me, he said, well, brother, you got to start at home.
That's right.
If you know of a problem, of a menace in the society that happened to live in your house, address that.
That's right.
And I'll be honest, I had, let that specter go past me a couple of times. And, man, you okay? You survived what? Tell me what happened out there. Cuz, blood, And you don't want them to be that, but you try to explain to them, look, it's a better way, man. You could be a square like me, and that same night he gave me that advice, a young man at the age of 25, my nephew, who had been living with me, and I was trying to help him get back, on the right track. He asked me for my car keys, and I put them on like a ring, like I was wearing them. I said, "No, not tonight, brother. Why don't you shut it down?" He still managed to make his way out that night, and he didn't survive. So I say that to say this. There was a young man, 16 years old, Anthony Weber, recently, was murdered because he didn't 100% comply. And I also do a radio show. I try not to pontificate.
Yeah, and don't. Okay, because we only have an hour.
I only do what I do
because bless your heart,
because
Anthony
of your
Weber,
spirit and the people who came before me.
We're all in this together, and that's really the message of this show. This is a black nation business,
absolutely,
and we are a people within this nation that needs the attention we haven't been getting. And the truth is, there's a point where we're going to have to tend to ourselves, and this is it. This is it. So, Candy, our topic changed to bullying for February. Instead of just Black History Month and focusing on the good history that we've planted in this country, we had to change that to bullying. And I was very specific. Bullying from the White House, the Congress, down to the street corner, to gang violence, to domestic violence,
and then bullying
to the
in the
schooling.
home.
Yes, to the schoolyard. So the first question I asked you was, what makes a bully? Isn't that the first thing I...
There's so many things that make a bully. A lot of times, I'm going to just be honest.
Please.
It's the parent that makes a bully.
There it is.
Because the parent bullies the child. We all know our friends, our family, our loved ones who call our children stupid mofos, dumb, ugly, you'll never be, everything we call our children, everything but a child of God. And so when you cuss your child out on a regular basis, you are encouraging them and directing them to understand that in order to receive what they perceive as love, then you have to be talked about. You have to be pushed against the wall. And so violence, bullying starts at home with those that we love. And then depending on what's going on, is there substance abuse? Is there alcohol? Are we homeless? Is there poverty? There's additional layers. So let me give you an example. You have maybe a home where there's no father or maybe no mother. There's only one parent or maybe a grandparent that's raising that child. We have allowed someone else to come in, boyfriend, girlfriend, or someone who is slapping the kid around or sexually abusing that child. And then that child isn't given the love and the care. They may not be eating on a regular basis. It's known that most children only eat 2 meals a day. And many children go to school hungry. Yes. And hunger causes children to bully. What do you call that? Isolation causes children to bully. Poverty causes children to bully because if I don't have clean clothes and I go to school and my clothes are dirty, some other kid is going to say, damn, you stink. Somebody don't love you. You ain't washed your clothes.
Punch them in their throat. That's what they said to me when my alligator was crooked on my shirt because I sold on Lacoste. Oh. Right, because my mama would buy the Winnie the Pooh. Yeah. And they say, that don't look pow, right in the face.
Right.
Shouldn't have bullied you.
Right.
Right. And it's true. We bully for so many reasons. There's no one particular thing that we can put our finger on and say, this is what makes a bully. Okay. A bully is going to show up in so many different forms and fashion. And that bully can be as rich or as poor, as white or black or everything in between. Right. It could be gay, straight, gender fluid. There's no one thing that's going to make a bully. Gender fluid, I'm glad you asked that. That person could be bisexual. They could be polyamorous, which means...
What is
polyamorous?
See, I get in trouble around here
polyamorous
because I'm not politically correct when I talk. So tell me now.
Trisexual, bisexual?
So polyamorous means that there are 3 or more people in a relationship. and it's a committed relationship.
That sounds like a trip to the doctor.
Like sister wives, huh?
Yeah,
Sounds like a trip to the clinic. I don't want no
It
part.
sounds like a contradiction. Oh, it's a monogamous relationship with a whole bunch of different people.
Well, not a whole bunch of different people. So if Skipp and I are in a relationship and we decided we wanted something more, something extra.
Like a new car.
No, two new people.
Or like a threesome.
Well,
That's the
no.
one I hear all the
buy me
time.
a
Let's
TV.
have a threesome.
But it's
I feel
okay.
bullied right now,
It's a
y'all.
committed
Buy me a bigger
relationship.
TV.
bullied.
Don't.
It's a committed relationship, and some people do it and do it well.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is that we sneak and cheat all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to be real with you and tell you, look, Skipp, I want to go over here and do her or do him. But instead, they bring that honesty into the relationship. And as long as everyone is committed to it, then it works.
What you call it, polyan?
Polyamorous.
Like sitting in front of the TV,
But
polyamorous.
polyamorous is an agreement.
Yes.
It's with
It
agreement.
is an agreement.
Right.
And there are
Polyamorous.
people that are polyamorous.
Right.
All you got to do is watch
Polyamorous.
Jerry Springer. You want to know what's
Ooh,
going
yes.
on.
Polyamorous.
Watch that show. You find out more stuff than you want to know.
That part, more than you wanted to know.
Well, see, because it's funny that you mentioned polyamorous, and sure enough, I watched a show where this man has a wife that doesn't mind being polyamorous.
Mm-hmm.
So on the show, he brings out two big boxes, and inside the box is a third woman.
Okay.
So she can pick which one that they want to go home and be polyamorous
So
with.
you get to pick your polyamorous.
Yeah, and she's
Which
in agreement.
polyamorous?
He's in agreement. So
As long as
all
it's
I'm
an
saying,
agreement.
it's an agreement.
Right.
See, so we may not agree with it,
Right.
but other people do, and they're minding their own business. They're not hurting me.
Right.
It's not. It doesn't qualify as domestic violence,
No.
which is really what I wanted to get back to, because you said that bullying can start as soon as in the womb.
Right. Well, what happens is because a mother carries that child, the very first thing that happens when she finds out she has a child, doesn't matter who you are, first thing we do is we touch our stomach. And so if someone is hitting us, we clench and we hold our stomach. That child feels that and experiences that. That child is hearing the mother being called a stupid mofo and everything else. When that person hits or kicks that woman, that child experiences it.
Yes.
And there's been instances where children have been born with like marks on their body that were from being hit when they were inside their mom. So we know that that child's brain matter can change. So the gray matter in their brain changes over time, and they're no longer sometimes while they're still in the womb, they will detach from their mother, as in, I'm no longer connected to you because I have to stop and break down and protect myself.
Right.
We go into a protection mode. And so what happens is that child is then born and that mother and child is not bonding.
Right.
That kid is quiet. That kid sits in a corner and may rock or may knock their head on the wall. There's all kinds of things. And so
It's
then that
traumatized
child,
at
right,
birth.
exactly,
Before
trauma.
birth.
Right.
Yeah, before birth.
And so
yeah.
then that child goes to school or goes to the playground or even is at home, and they will start beating up their brothers and sisters or cutting their hair or carrying knives.
acting in ways that parents don't expect,
Right.
but don't quite know how to address. They're not quite sure what they're looking at. And I appreciate the fact that you're very clear about that. Bullying started at home.
Right.
It doesn't come to the playground and all of a sudden I'm going to be a bully. No, that's some kind of affect, something that has happened to them that make them respond as bullies.
Right.
One of the tales for this young man who recently performed that heinous, cowardly crime in Florida was he was abusive towards women. He even had a buddy. Apparently, somebody liked him enough to call himself being a friend of his, and he told that friend, "You know what? I don't like your girlfriend." And somebody else told me this, and I had to tie it in. And it dawned on me too. Wow, he did commit this crime on the day when lovers are to come together.
Right.
And somebody was joking, saying, "Man, if he had somebody that he could have, he might not."
I don't think so. Let me tell you one thing about that young man that I heard, that his only parent that he had left had just recently
His mom
passed away.
Right.
And even before that, he was adopted. So there's an isolation, there's an
Right.
abandonment. Let me tell you, I did not want to go
Abandonment.
spend the weekend at my auntie house. I didn't want to go to jail. I want to go home. No matter how old I was, I just want to go home and be with my mother. And yes, my mother was the one who started the bullying, stop telling and go fight your brother and all that stuff. But I don't care if we ate oatmeal, beets, or broccoli. I just want to go home.
Right.
So think about the trauma this young man is thinking, not being able to actually be with his real mom, his real
Right.
dad.
Yeah.
And I don't care if they bought him a new phone, new TV, whatever. It
Nothing
does not
replaces it.
replace
Guns.
it.
Nothing.
Nothing replaces it. Nothing
right.
replaces being with mom and dad and having that family.
That's
So
right.
he's messed up anyway.
Yes.
Well before Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Well before
Yes.
he didn't like whoever's girlfriend that was.
Yes.
He was messed up and needed attention. And sometimes society thinks, well, he's in a good home, he'll be okay.
Yeah.
But he constantly needs to be able to speak about how he feels.
That's right. And you know, that's a very important fact
Yeah.
that people think, oh, I'm going to take this child out of this negative, bad, hurtful environment. And
Fix it.
I do not care how abusive a home is.
That
That
child
child
wanna be
wants
there.
to go back home.
Yeah.
It
Right.
wants to be with the family.
Yes.
It's almost like a domestic violence relationship because I know this person is hitting me, knocking me out, beating my butt, but I want to be with this
I'd
person.
rather, yes, than a
I need to be
stranger.
because
Yeah.
we relate to those that we love, and we can't separate the love from the abuse.
Wouldn't that child also say they beat me because I did something wrong, and they beat me because they love me enough to correct my wrong?
Well,
Isn't that the way
we
a child
always
internalizes that?
not just children, everyone. We internalize abuse and make it our issue. If I was only nicer,
Yes.
taller, smarter, lighter, thinner, if I only studied more, if I only,
If I
there's
only.
we can't change anything. We have to understand that violence and abuse is not our issue, but the abuser's issue. But usually abusers have been abused.
Yes.
Not all the time, but most of the time, abusers have been abused, and we haven't addressed that.
But I do want to say, so if I'm abused, though, that's my issue too, because it's my issue because I don't recognize it, I don't see it,
Right.
or I want to cover it up.
Yeah.
So even though the abuser has the issue, once I'm abused and I don't draw the line, I do not set my boundaries, then I become a part of that abuse and a
right.
willing participant,
Yes.
which does not put the abuser, to the side or whatever.
No.
But at some point, I have to draw the line. The
Yes.
very first time a young lady raises her voice at me or decides she wants to argue,
That's a red flag.
At this moment, that's a red flag.
Yes,
Right.
it
So
is.
I
It
have to
is.
get out of that conversation. I have to separate myself and see how did it happen and can we fix it. And if we can't fix it, that's a
Move
red
on.
flag. I got to move on.
So, Candy, are there some specific red flags that young people who call themselves thinking they are mature enough to be in a relationship, quote unquote, that when they see that first red flag, they'll know, uh-oh, this is not the person for me?
That's a good.
I would say violence against someone else. So think about this. When I was younger, I had road rage. And I would immediately, and you better, and this and that. And the young ladies would never think that I would trip on them the same way I'm tripping on these people.
Right.
And you can get this too.
That's
They
right.
don't
You
think
get
like
it too.
Right.
Well,
And
you know what? I just want to add this in. Chris Brown watched his mother being physically abused by his stepfather. Okay? And so when he assaulted Rihanna, I just saw that connection. My dad did this to my mom. It must be okay. And I see that training coming to our sons and to our daughters that are raised in an abusive home. If dad beats mom and she takes it, well, the daughter says, well, this is the man that I'm going to have.
The
And then
expression of
son-
anger,
Yeah.
expression of anger is learned.
It's
it becomes a
learned.
learned behavior.
This
So
is the
the
point I'm trying to
frustration,
make.
the anger, frustration, which is normal and healthy to be angry, but how do I express it?
How do you
is
express
what
it?
comes out sometimes unhealthy.
Well, see,
Right.
because domestic violence is bullying. A single mother that says, I don't need your daddy to raise you, is bullying.
Right.
Okay, it's the same bullying as that schoolyard a person that says, "I want your jacket, give it to me, or I'm gonna take it." You see, it's the same kind of angered response. That's really what I was trying to get at, Candy.
And there's different ways of showing this. So, for instance, if you are with a guy and he treats you really nice, or you're with a girl and they treat you really nice, but they tell you, you know, my ex-girlfriend, she was this a B and I can't stand her and she never.
Oh, yeah.
Well, guess what?
Red flag.
You're the next one.
You're the next one.
Okay? Or when they
Say that again, please.
You know it. Anytime. Oh, my favorite is when somebody tells you, you know what? Nobody ever loved me. You're the only one. Wait. Let's back this up. So you mean those people who had you didn't love you? Nobody, you are 15, 16, 25 years old, and nobody has ever loved you? That's a problem.
Yeah.
That means that you don't receive love. You don't know what love looks like. You cannot handle love. And so there's always going to be some kind of block. There's going to be some kind of issue. Especially now we're talking about bullying. We have to talk about social media.
Oh, my God.
Because, see, bullying shows up in so many different ways, especially with kids. And the first thing that's attached to all of our hands is our cell phone. And so bullying shows up socially, digitally, and especially girls and boys will say, give me your phone. Let me check and see who you've been talking to.
Right.
So if you got to check to see who somebody's talking to, you with the wrong person.
Yeah, something's wrong
You know,
already.
there's a gazillion signs. I'm going to go through a couple of them really quick. It could be that person who's always grabbing on your arm, telling you, come on, let's go. The one who tells you what? You're going to listen to your mama? You're not going to listen to me? The one who says, dude, don't you ever wear this kind of shirt anymore. The one who tells you you can only be in a dress or you can only be in a pants.
I have a story.
You got a story?
I was coaching youth activities.
Come on,
I don't mean to do
come on with it.
That's okay.
And no, but it came to me when you were just talking, and I remember, and then, mind you, I salute all the men and women out there who devote their time and efforts to mentoring, because that's what it turns into a lot of times. Or like you said earlier, sometimes these babies hungry. The game you didn't work.
The story, Eddie. The story.
One of the coaches, after a young man had, just blew the game. He grabbed the kid. He told him to get off the field, and he just undressed this kid in front of everybody. And I felt for this young man. I'm like, oh my God! I'm sure he want to crawl under a rock and die.
Coach.
So, well, a lot of times we have people in positions to mentor who need some training on how to talk to people.
Yeah, they do.
Amen. So,
And some of their parents do too.
well, a lot of times you pull them out of them dysfunctional homes thinking, with a few hours you have with me, hopefully I can give you some, this is how a man should. So back to the story. So I go over to the bench and I sit with the young man. I say, hey, listen, man, try to block that play out your mind, because your team needs you. You still the best corner your team got out there. So when you're ready, go over to the coach and let the coach know you're ready. Then I went over to the coach and I let the coach know. I said, man, that wasn't cool how you handled that young man making a mistake. People in the stands know he messed up. So let him know you need him, and then, it'll unshake his confidence, and he won't hate this game that we love so much. So I said all that to say,
what did the coach say?
That coach he bullied that child.
I know he did, but what did he say to you? What was his response to you?
He looked at me like, shut up, Ed.
Yeah, go mind your own business.
But think about this.
But the kid.
Think about what Candy said about getting it at home, right? Getting at you stupid, you look like your daddy, he ain't,
and you ain't, and
all that. And now he go play football. And now the coach is talking just as bad to him.
Crazy to him.
So what do you think is going to happen when he gets some little cute girl who like him? What are you going to tell her? He go, you ain't shut up before I slap you.
He's going to repeat all those things.
Everything that happened to him. And then he's sick, he's damaged. But if she's accepting of it, if she accepts it, then she's just as damaged, because she might have heard that too.
Absolutely.
So this is her way of gravitating towards love.
Right.
What she's familiar with.
as Skipp said, violence is a learned behavior.
It's a learned
And
behavior.
we can unlearn it as well. But because we are bombarded at home, at school, in the community, as young ladies and even young men walk down the street, hey, stupid mofo, come over here,
From
big
the
butt.
movie to the music.
Right, and the music, oh my goodness. We do a workshop. This is a shameless plug. So we do a workshop twice a month at LA Care in Inglewood, and that's right on the corner of Century and Crenshaw. And our workshop is a bully workshop for youth. We do a workshop called Bullying Through Music and then Bully Awareness. And we really address how violence shows up in our music, in the words, in our actions. And we don't just talk about it, but because we then give them the tools and the skills. Because, see, we're having this conversation now, but every parent should be having this conversation with their kid.
Yes.
Because the conversation continues when we're not in the room. And then kids don't know what to do. We all hear it all the time. Every time there's a school shooting, there's some kind of violence, people say, oh, I heard that. I heard him say that. Oh, I saw this, but I didn't know what to do. And so when we learn how to, as parents, put our phone down, turn around and look at our children and really have a conversation with them.
Yes.
Right. But what happens is that parent, if they pick their kid up from school, they're usually on the phone or they're driving and like, get in the car. I'm tired. I had a bad day. What do you want? Look, just when we get home, we'll talk. But when we get home, we have other things to do.
Yeah.
And now don't get me wrong. I'm not blaming a parent for being busy. But I am telling a parent that you need to go offline and take time and look at your kids and stop cussing your kids out and making your kid the last priority.
Wow.
That's the
The
worst
last
thing.
priority.
You know what I do
Worst
with my
thing you
kids?
could
So I
do
pick
is
my
curse
kids
them
up this
out.
week every day, and I was buying them something to eat, fast food. I didn't want to get it. I said, you know what? You guys are all in my ear with this. You guys are going to sing. So I went online,
Sing for your supper.
sing for your dinner,
Sing for their
and Atomic Dog was on.
Can we get
So they sang it, and I tell them, one of the reasons why I do that, not only to engage, and I want them to know, and I ask them, I said, so, every time I drop them off, I ask them, so does anything stand out about our 20 minutes together, an hour together, whatever. And my son Cody says, man, you know what I like most about you? I said, what? He said, you're not a bum. He said, I look out and I see all the bums and sleeping in tents.
Amen.
And I was like, man, that's so important.
really
Amen.
But I know a young man who's in one of my classes who said that his dad and mom was on drugs, and it's his dad's fault. He said his dad was really on drugs and just drugged the whole family through the mud, and they slept in cars and stuff like that. He said, but Skipp, I would not change the fact that my mom and dad were together for my entire life. He said, I would never want to have a better life without my dad. I wanted my dad, and I'm grateful that my dad was there. He said, when we lived in the shelter, my dad was there. And he, so just.
It makes a difference.
It makes a
It
difference.
makes a big difference.
My dad was around somewhere.
Right.
Look,
But
let
you
me-
know what?
but wait.
The point is, we're making a statement about how important not only the family unit is, but for that father to be a part of it.
Right.
And,
It is
and it goes
critical.
back to that bullying single mother that says, well, I don't need his dad. I can do this by myself.
We
Well, you
can.
have just hurt your child telling him that. You have
Right.
just damaged him at the moment of speaking those words to him. I
Right.
don't need your father. Come on,
And
girl.
it's not about her needing anything. It's
No.
about that child.
There it is.
That child needs to have the father. And so let me just take a moment and talk to every woman who is watching this program. If you are having sex with somebody, automatically consider that you're going to probably get pregnant. And if you get pregnant, then that man who got you pregnant, you need to include him into your child's life. Now, it doesn't matter if he likes you or wants to be with you.
It matters.
because-
She shouldn't have been
Doesn't
sexing him up.
that is true.
Well-
but I'm saying is if they have a child,
Right.
do not ace this man out.
No.
Because that child, F you and the horse you rode in on, but your child needs to have a father. Your child needs to be
Yes.
able to say, my father's name is.
Yes.
Right.
He
And be
shouldn't-
proud of it.
Right.
Yes.
He or she should not be like, I don't know who my daddy is. I ain't never seen my daddy. I saw a postcard of him one time.
Let me tell you what I believe every little girl needs is to be able to have the confidence to say, "You better stop, or I'm gonna call my daddy."
Yeah.
Every little girl needs to have that confidence.
Yeah.
Like, you keep doing that, I'm gonna tell my daddy.
I applaud what you said, brother and Sister Candy. What you said is profound as far as having those people, those good parents in your life, and I think part of the solution is, and in some cases, be it by the gun, be it by the drug, be it by whatever construct we specifically as people of color suffer, we need to know that part of the solution is knowing that I know a lot of these kids don't have mothers and fathers, so I'm going to step in. And last night at Ceasefire, we were visited by some beautiful people who are letting us know the 18th annual conference, Strategies for the Development of African American Man-Child, is going to be held this Saturday at the campus of Southwest College. And I mean, it's a village. And I want to segue on the fact that the Black Panther movie just came out, and I won't do no spoiler alerts.
Yeah,
y'all.
don't.
But I looked at me like, but you've been having a good show, Eddie. Don't mess up.
But even that. So imagine this. So Eddie, even talking about but I'm going to go back to Southwest College this Saturday. I'm even going to go to what Candy's doing in April. Mm-hmm. Who are the people who bring their children, though? It's conscious people. Right. So what I believe, and I don't want to say don't do it, stop doing it, because it's great for people like me, who got the conscious mind, who's going to bring my child and say, you need to hear this. The people we need to reach don't know that they got ugly kids. They don't know that that the ugly parent teaching the ugly kid.
An ugly parent. And let me just put this in. See, because and women, ladies, okay, look, don't get mad at me.
Right.
But if I ever run across you calling these 3 young men, like I did on this occasion that I'm going to mention, from 9 to 14, 3 young men, 9 to 14, you dirty MFs, get out this MFing car and get your own. Mm-hmm. Okay? And in the parking lot, in the gas station, screaming at the top of her lungs at these 3 young black boys. So, calling them an MF. Like that's your first name is MF. It's like, wait a minute. And it was
accepted culture. Almost.
No. When I tried to correct her, then I became the bitch.
Well,
mind your own business.
Wait.
It's like, no, girl, when you open your mouth and spread it all over this parking lot and call them that, you brought me into this to defend these poor little kids. That is not what they are, and you need to be ashamed of yourself.
So let me tell you part of that. But before I get to that, I just want to say, I talk to the women. Let me also talk to the men. Because men, if you have sex with a woman, then you need to step up and be that man. Because you got this person pregnant, y'all did it together. One person didn't do it individually. Both of y'all did it, and you have to be accountable and responsible to your children. But let me just say this:
she knew I was broke when we got together,
and you can be broke.
She knew I wasn't working when we started sexually relating each other.
That got
but
nothing
you
to
still
do with
have to be a parent.
Other.
You can be a parent and be broke. But let me tell you my concept of this problem, where you have people screaming and hollering, talking about get out my business.
Yeah.
So I came out of high school a while ago. And when I came out of high school in 1976, what was the drug on the street?
1996.
Weed and cocaine?
No, baby.
No.
1976, it was Sherm. It was
Sherm,
a lovely.
Baby, right.
They was dancing naked. I could dance underwater and not get wet.
Right? But angel dust changed the face. It changed the face of all drug abuse, especially in communities of color. And so children that were born to women who were on angel dust were addicted. And those children were first misidentified in a lot of cases as ADD babies. And so those babies were given Ritalin. And they became little zombie-like kids. And then when they got old enough to start self-soothing, crack cocaine was on the street. So what happened is, for the first time in the history of the world, we've always had men that were in and out of the lives. But for the first time in the history of the world, women walked away from their families. And so when you take the mother away, the protector,
Right.
the father away, the provider, and you leave the children, you have chaos.
Yes.
So you had little 9-year-old kids who were in charge of little 6-year-olds who were then in charge of the 3 and 4-year-olds.
Yes.
And so those
It sounds like
kids,
a system that was designed to fail.
absolutely was
Let's
designed
destroy
to fail.
these homes.
Because who was affected most? The black
African Americans,
communities.
absolutely.
So we went from our population being up there to what, 12%?
Well, I have to mention this before we go off the air, especially with the rampant mass murders. If Hoover's FBI went after these neo-Nazi white racist hate groups the way they went after brothers and sisters
Malcolm
in
and
the
Martin.
60s when the Black Panther movement started, 90% of these shootings wouldn't have happened. I believe that.
I agree with that, but the point
we
is,
missed the gang violence stuff. We wouldn't have had none of that.
Right.
Well,
but
they went after us. They had prisons.
So, but wait, let me just finish my point. The point is that you had children who had to raise themselves.
Yes.
They did not have a mother, a father. They did not have the community. So now you have those 7, 8, 9-year-olds that are now parents that are saying to you, you stay out of my business because see, nobody was in their business when they were little. So why are you now trying to get all up in my business because you weren't here when I needed you? So F you because I'm going to do it my way. And what we're dealing with is we're dealing with children who did not have a parent. They did not have guides. They did not have the leaders. And not to say that they are bad people. They are just misguided people who didn't have direction and did the best that they could.
Kids raising kids.
Well, wait,
Right.
wait. Let's find out that. See, because you are absolutely right. Some of these kids were born addicted, crack in the mother's blood, okay, and that's when foster care came and just took that child right on out the delivery room.
Right.
If they found drugs in the mother's system at the time of birth, you're giving that child up.
Right.
You are not keeping it. Whatever we do with you, that child is going over here. You see, so they have been traumatized from birth.
Right.
Okay. The idea that maybe along the way, mom went to jail.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Dad's not here, but now mom's in jail. Where do I belong?
No.
You see, and we as a people have not been factoring these kids that are the trickle down
Right.
from the crack epidemic. We have not paid attention to the damage done to the kids in the trickle down. They're the result of the trickle down from the drug addiction, the gang violence, all of that, the absent parent, all of that, foster care, all of that.
And then you want to add in, and this is where I need everybody to pay attention, because now we have also looking at the fact of how sexual abuse has impacted black boys and girls. So if we talk about kids that have been trafficked, we know right now, if you don't know, African Americans are number one being trafficked. African Americans are number one in violence and abuse. African Americans are number one in all of the bad things. Not to say we're not fabulous people, but we have high rates of violence and abuse. And so we don't talk about in the Me Too, in the Us Too, and all of these times up about little black boys and girls who have been sexually assaulted. And so you have some kids that are abused or that are bullies because they've been sexually abused.
Yes.
You've got some men, then we don't talk about boys who were sexually abused and then they become men who grow up and they're angry
and
they're
perpetuate
mad.
that.
They're angry.
Sometimes they don't perpetuate the sexual assault, but they are angry,
No,
and they're
they
mad.
show it in other ways. So
Right.
It's
most
the
of
anger.
most of the guys who are out here that are hunting, we call it hunting. They're out here hunting for other men to kill. Find out that most of them have been touched as kids.
Right.
You know, I forgot what they call it. Psychos. What is it?
I don't know the exact
the
term,
term,
but I know for a fact that the mindset of a child, if a child is abused, not just physically, not just sexually, but really physically abused, emotionally abused, and they're under 8, their victims, when they get older, are under 8. And And then when they get older, they start looking for them. As you say, they hunt for them. So let me be clear that women abuse too. Women sexually abuse, women verbally abuse, women are physically abusive, and we have a lot of young ladies that did not have a man in their house, and then they had somebody tell them, you know what, you better toughen up, you got to handle this, SHIT, and so they become very aggressive and overly masculine, and want to loke up on some man, and women, we can't beat a man.
Well,
I'm
we
sorry.
do have
We just
angry
can't.
women. I mean, I'm one of them, and I'm not physically abusive, but I have been angered at the number of men dying in my community, the number of children killed in our community because of the violence that has taken over our youth, that they're kind of stuck in that rut. They think we're wrong for wanting them to do something else. See, that's the mind I'm trying to get to.
We're trying to keep you from being abused and trafficked and put through a lot of unnecessary. And I want to correct you, Sister Candy. One thing you did say that it's not true is that we're not having the conversation. We are having the conversation. And one of the solutions is the fact that, we have this platform and we are taking advantage of, the social media networking of all the many programs and all the beautiful people here in our city and across this great country that are truly doing the work. And
that's true. And you're right. We are having the conversations. And there's a lot of organizations. Skipp's organization,
Yes.
Second Call, Positive Results Corporation. This show right here, Sister Herron, talks about
shout out
this.
to Gang Talk on Morris Media. We are doing the work.
But what I'm saying is there are a lot of people who have been sexually abused who's never said the words that I've been sexually abused.
Right.
And now, for instance, let me give you an example.
They're not an emotionally safe place. I don't mean to cut you off,
But that's true.
if it's not emotionally safe, because listen, let me tell you what they tell me. Anything I say can and will be used against me.
you.
So it's not just when I talk to the police; it's in my relationship.
Yeah.
When I tell my
Right.
girl, "Why do you feel that way?" Because I have gone through this. Well,
Right.
as soon as we get into an argument, she say, "You old depressed ass, don't know who your daddy."
You must know my ex-wife.
Right.
You must know my
And
ex-wife.
now next thing I know, I'm being verbally abused by
being
someone
abused.
I
Yeah.
trusted.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
And that is an excellent point. That is so true. And we have to stop blaming. But for instance, let me give you another example. So I know a young lady, her father sexually abused her and her brothers and sisters. And then he sexually abused the grandchildren. Okay? So now the grandchildren have children. They no longer were dealing with the father. The father got sick. They invited the father back into the house with the grandchildren. And nobody is talking to each other about this abuse. And I asked them, so what are you going to do when he abuses one of the grandchildren? And she said, oh, he's not going to do that because we're going to watch him. First off, let me tell you, abusers know your pattern better than you do.
Wow.
Yes, they
Abusers
do.
watch you and know exactly. And it does not take all day. It only takes a matter of a moment, not a minute, but a moment. All I need is a moment for you to just drop your guard, and that abuse happens. And once a child is touched in that kind of way, they will never be the same.
Right.
Not to say they won't be a great person, but their life forever changes.
But they will definitely need some type of therapy, and that's another thing we as a people shy away from as part of the solution. A lot of times, and I'm going to show you you've been on my show. A lot of times we as especially people of color, we pretend like, I don't need no mental health. I don't need no psychiatrist. Whatever else I don't need to talk to a shrink. But in all actuality, that is part of your healing process. Because what we have gone through a lot of times, if you don't sit down and talk to somebody about your problems and the mental health aspect of whatever umbrella that we are building to create our new Wakanda. That was the name of the utopia that black folks lived in Africa. But that Wakanda is going to be here in LA, Chicago, Detroit, New York. Part of that solution, and you know what, you guys, I could have seen Oprah Winfrey as one of the queen mothers in that.
Oh.
She wasn't in it, but guess what, Oprah? You in real life, Oprah, with your cachet in Hollywood and your money.
No, right?
Oprah, you are one of the sisters
Because I want to
who
say
will
something
run
about
this
it.
new Wakanda
Eddie,
here in the United States.
But I want to say something about it, Eddie.
Let's skip it,
really though, because what he said about the therapy, right?
Yeah.
So
I wanted to get back at that, too.
I do not condone the LCSWs and the MSWs, because what happens is they cannot self-disclose. So what happens is when I come in and say, man, I got a D number, I went to prison in 86 and I did this and did that, I can self-disclose and I can create some kind of bond. But when you have an LCSW or MSW who
What is
will
that?
not, the licensed clinical social workers or the master of social work. So what happens when they come out, they are here just to hear, and they have like a format to follow where you know, so, and sometimes it's to prescribe medication or to,
And that's what we don't want.
and that's what I don't want.
Right.
So I want the person to have an emotionally safe place
Yes.
to
Right.
sit and talk about what happened, the trauma, where they won't be judged.
What
but
we
at
call
the
it-
same, but at the same time, talking to someone who can relate to them.
Yeah.
It would have to be someone
has to.
who can relate.
What
would we call that?
Let me
Mentorship?
clarify that. Let me clarify that, because black folks do not flock to mental health. We don't.
Right.
Because we're not represented. We're not represented in there. And how is a stranger from another culture, another race, going to understand my
They
finite
cannot.
details? They can't. So this is one of the reasons why we don't run after mental health
What's
care.
the lady that comes with the two ladies? I know one of them. They come here from the LCSWs. They come here. And I
you're
always
talking
say-
about Laquita.
but who's the one she
Marion.
brings?
Marion.
So Marion actually says on the air, I was homeless. We did this. We did. However, even though she says that, she can't tell that to a client.
No.
Right.
Okay, here's my question.
So then the client feels like, well, you some old Pepperdine graduating
Well-
USC degree. You don't understand
You
my
don't
walk.
understand.
Here's my question
But
to the-
Marion really does.
Okay, here's my question to the solution. Can we develop, and I don't know if we would call it, our babies need somebody they could talk to, mental health therapy session, but what would we create for specifically, I got somebody who I need to send to you, young person, because they can relate to you program.
That's
And would that be
called-
what they're
That's
doing
called
at
second
Southwest?
call.
Right, so
That's
as an
called the
adult-
positive results
As an
corporation.
adult,
Yes.
it would be second call as
Yes.
adults, because it's full of ex-felons who've been through stuff. But it's exactly what we have here. It's where because I've been to I think the one at Dominguez,
Right.
at Dominguez College, where you have the peer-to-peer mentoring, and you have other mentors, and you have the workshops
Right.
where they can speak with each other,
Right.
create that emotionally safe place. So maybe you want to say something about that.
So our organization, as I was saying earlier, the first and last Tuesday of every month, we are at LA Care in Inglewood, and the address is 3111 West Century Boulevard, right on the corner of Century and Crenshaw. And so from 5 to 6:30, we have a youth program, and we talk to the youth about what bullying and violence is.
Yeah.
And then we give them the tools so they become peer advocates,
Yes.
so that they teach the other kids about what's going on, and
Yes.
they have the skills, because we can't be everywhere.
Right.
And one of the things that we do is when I have a conversation I train the probation department. I train DMH, and I go in from a cultural lens talking about trauma. And I will tell you about everything that I went through, including when I had a complete mental breakdown and when I had to go get some counseling because I could not move any further, when I was in bed for a month and couldn't get out of the bed at all for any reason and was sleeping 20 hours a day. So
the
what
only time I did that, I was in jail.
Oh, okay. Well,
That's why I got all
I
that
was in
right.
my own personal hell jail.
Okay.
I got a hold of some bad stuff one time.
So, but one of the things that we have to do is, you're right, we have to have these conversations.
Yes.
So contact the Positive Results Corporation at LA Care so we can work with your youth also, you were talking about it earlier. I'm so glad that there's men on this panel, because when we talk about violence and abuse, we always want to blame men, because it is true that men cause most of the abuse, but not all men are bad men.
No.
Right.
And not all men do all of the abuse.
Oh.
And so on Saturday,
I've been abused before.
Yeah, I have been an abuser.
I got bit. I got a chunk of meat. Just okay. Now
I'm sitting here trying to think of how good a person I am, and the only case I caught was domestic violence my whole life. So it'll touch you. It'll touch you.
It touches everyone, and we don't talk about the women who are abusers.
I'm just going to admit
You want me to name them on air? I can tell you all the ones.
Don't do that. Don't do that. No.
We can drop names. It's all right after the show. But look, I think in the bigger picture, as an African American in this country, I come into the world automatically bullied because of my color.
Trauma.
And that trauma stays with me.
Right.
I don't care how good my parents are, how bad they are. My blackness is my first trauma.
Someone or something will remind
that makes
you.
me. There it is.
Right.
That reminds me I'm different. So I see that as being bullied as a people. Now, just blanket that over so many others that feel the same way. We have anger in us.
Absolutely.
And unaddressed. And not knowing how to recognize that that's where it's coming from. I ain't mad at you. I'm just angry. And I want to take my anger out on something. I'm so upset about my condition. I want to punch somebody, like Skipp said. Punch him in the throat.
Right.
I want to punch him in the head.
But when we're little, so imagine this. You are a parent, and you may not be mad at your kid, but you're mad at a situation, or you're so passionate about it, and this little person sees you saying, what do you mean this happened? Right. They don't know that you're not mad at them.
Right.
And so this is that learned behavior. I'm watching, I'm observing. Before we even know what that person is saying, I'm watching your actions.
Right.
And then I'm gauging them against everybody else's actions in the community, in the store, in the schools. And so I start noticing that, you're angry, you're mad, and you're always mad at me. And so that's how I need to show somebody that I love them or that I care about them. But then sometimes not. I
just thought of
thing is really different because it affects everyone differently. Each person's bullying, each person's violence, each person's anger is going to show up differently.
Yeah. And not to cut you off, sister, but I just thought of something that I saw, a conversation that Jay-Z was having, and he was talking about the fact that, especially we as people of color, men specifically, we have to put on a persona. We have to put on a toughness to where I'm mean mugging, just trying to let you know I'm the wrong one today. Right. And then now you done made eye contact with me, and the sad part about that individual that's mean mugging, and now you wondering why this person is looking at you. What you don't realize is we don't see your flaws. We don't see your anger. We don't see your frustration. We don't see the abuse that you may have suffered. But because you trying so hard to mask it, now that we done made eye contact, no, I don't see you, brother. Is that why you mad? No,
that's exactly it.
Relax. And to keep it on the bullying that Sister Herron was talking about, there are only 30 of maybe 700 players in the world of hockey.
You was doing so good.
I know, but I get on the rant, brother. Stay with me.
He was doing so good.
Sister Herron is smiling, looking at me.
What is he going to say?
Sister Herron is looking at me, smiling, saying, "Brother, don't blow. You're doing great."
He was doing good.
And he's still going back there. Go ahead.
For years, I'm pretty sure those fans, when you go visit in the wrong arenas, want to pick on them few 30 players that are black. And young brother Devontae Smith Pele, he's my hero because he couldn't take it no more. He's number 25. He plays for the Chicago Blackhawks. I forget where they was playing at. But he turned around and told some white person, "Look, man, I'm tired of you calling me out my name." And then I love the fact that while being bullied, it got ugly to where white fans got escorted from that building, and we ain't talking about poor white people. Right. These are people with some education and some money, and they know that black dude, that N-word is beating us. Shout out to him and his white teammates who came to his aid, and a brawl broke out to where, okay, I got a kid who kicks people because he got anger issues, or I got a kid who gets kicked and don't know how to deal with them anger issues.
Then bring him to see Candy because she's the expert.
Come on. Okay. So there's two sides of that coin.
We haven't even gotten into the issue of dating.
Well, you only got
bullying and dating. I know, so that means you're gonna have to come back.
When can the people see you?
I'll always come back. So I want to share again the first and last Tuesday of every month at LA Care in Inglewood from 5 to 6:30. But
I'm gonna charge you for those commercials.
Okay,
don't worry. Charge
I see that money hanging out your purse. I'm gonna
you
get
can have everything I have. But I want to share that when we talk about violence and abuse, we always leave the men out of the conversation. Yeah. And so on Saturday, April the 7th, we're having our second conference for boys and men.
Good.
The long title is Engaging Men and Boys to Prevent Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault while Promoting Healthy Manhood. And so we just ended it, our title was really Promoting Healthy Manhood. And although the Positive Results Corporation is hosting this and we're partnering with Holman United Methodist Church, this is not going to be a religious thing, and this is not going to be any women talking to the men. Good. It's going to be men having conversation with other men, providing that safe space to have the conversation. And then also we're going to have those men that are going to share their stories of the abuse that they experienced, whether it was from their significant other or a parent, or maybe they saw their child be abused, or maybe they were the abuser, and then give them some tools.
Well, are you going to feed them?
Oh, absolutely. We're going to provide them with breakfast and lunch.
Okay.
Now, let me just say this. All people under 21 are free. For anyone over... No. Anyone over 21 is $10. And if you can't afford that, we want everybody to be there. Right. So don't show up with a pocket full of money talking about I ain't got $10.
Okay, because look, that's one event.
Yes.
But the truth is, we need to have more men events where men can get amongst themselves, like Skipp was saying, with the freedom to talk amongst themselves about what's troubling them. They don't need a MSW for that. We need our men to be willing to come and meet with each other and let these things resolve among them.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate the fact that you said the women are not going to lead this.
No.
This is a resolve our men need to take up. And I want to also suggest this is where our churches could really come in and help with that youth ministry.
Yes.
Help with that youth counseling. Help give our men your sanctuary to come and have that very intimate, private conversation.
And don't make them feel bad.
Well, the point is, you can't have a man's mentorship and bring guilt.
Right.
And also, again, this Saturday at Southwest College, the 18th annual...
What time is it?
It starts at 8 and ends at 3. The check-in is at 7:30. Again, it's Strategies for Development of African American Man-Child. For more information, you can go to www.facebook.com.
Okay, because I'm going to charge Southwest for this. No, I'm going to charge you for this ad for Southwest, because Southwest has plenty of money, and God bless them. We really appreciate Southwest because they're working hard for our community.
Yes, they really do.
Yeah.
I like
absolutely are.
But I have some theme music. Can I hear my theme music?
Yes. Please. Because I didn't even get a final comment out of you, so you have to come back just to make a final comment.
Come back tomorrow.
All right.
I won't be here tomorrow.
You tell me.
I'm going to make an appointment. God bless your community family. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you so much.
Love you.